Good morning. My name is Andrew Guillen, Manager with Due Process and Special Education Services with the Due Process and Eligibility Office. And today we're going to go ahead and talk about how to use Blackboard Collaborate Ultra with C-STARS meetings. First, before we begin, this session will be recorded and it will be posted on the Due Process and Eligibility intranet site, along with a copy of this PowerPoint and a little tip sheet that you and your SPITs can review as you're setting up Blackboard Collaborate sessions with Blackboard Collaborate sessions when you're using C-STARS, excuse me. The little tip, the tip sheet has been sent to SPITS management and has been distributed to each SPIT today on Tuesday, April 14th. So you may need to give them a little bit of time before they've had an opportunity to look at it, but they have received it officially from their management group. So let's talk a little bit about who does what in Blackboard Collaborate. I know that some of the information that we're about to cover may be a review, and you may have received similar slides, if not exact slides, from your SPITS or Blackboard Collaborate trainer. But what I've done is I've added a little bit of a C-STAR spin to it. So if we kind of look here, what I would say is the moderator will also have to be that C-STARS driver, okay? And really, for us, it can be two roles. You can have your moderator / your C-STARS driver, and then everybody else is going to be a participant, including those eligibility, IEP, local screening, any 504, FCPS school-based members, and parents, okay? We really don't think we're going to be using the presenter role very often, but if it does, it can be an additional C-STARS driver who's going to work on the plop, or a PSL who might be supporting your meetings. But keep in mind, and we're going to get into this a little bit later on and throughout the session, we should limit the number of moderators and presenters who are on VPN, because it does slow down Blackboard Collaborate. In fact, you've probably been told by your schools not to be connected to VPN. But we have worked with the IT department, and we have asked, and they have went ahead and approved for us to at least have one person who's connected during the Blackboard Collaborate session. So just like before, you know, you've seen this error in Blackboard Collaborate when you're logging in. No big deal. You can always press the F5 button on your keyboard to refresh, and then you should be able to log in. It's just a component of Blackboard Collaborate at this time, and we appreciate your patience. So all users who have access to a Blackboard Collaborate session have a general screen that looks just like the one on your screen right now. The difference lies into the amount of information within each session according to your access. So if you're a moderator, you're going to have a little bit more access in your session menu, as well as having more access in your Collaborate panel. And of course, everybody's going to have the toolbar. And as we talk about how we want you to set up access for the participants taking part in your special education meetings, there's going to be some things that we're going to have you disable so that they don't have access to. So the first thing is, let's go into that navigation bar a little bit more. So if you were to go ahead and kind of click on that little navigation bar, it's kind of down here as well, but on your screen we kind of have a little side screen here of it. It gives you a lot of little things to kind of tell the moderator, the presenter can, the participant can really give emotions, really, and show whether they agree or they've walked away. And as that moderator during the IEP meeting, you might want to let your participants know, parents, other teachers, and related service providers are home with their families as well, and maybe they need to step away. So you might want to show them how to indicate that they are stepping away so that we don't go or participate further without their presence. Okay, so that's kind of one example. We'll talk about how to they can raise their hand as well and enable the mic to do that as well. That's another option. But this is a way you can kind of control how much people are saying or interrupting during the meeting. So again, this screen is going to show you when the mic is green and it does not have a slash in it. It means it's active. But of course, if you wish to turn it off, you can press it again, and then it kind of goes gray with the slash in the middle. We are not going to be recording or giving participants access to the audio portion of the Blackboard Collaborate. That takes up a lot of bandwidth and internet resources, and these meetings are already complex enough for both the families and the school teams, and so we really think we should stick to one mode of communication, which would be audio, whether it's on the phone, through teleconference line, or using your audio through Blackboard Collaborate. And here it is, the raising of the hand. Of course, you know that. You can, tell parents, just kind of do a quick review before you get started that, if they have a question, they can raise their hand, and then once you acknowledge them, they can go ahead and ask their question. And then it allows you to, once they're done, if you need to turn off their mic, you can do that as well. And we're going to go into that a little bit further this morning. So we're going to also have you disable your chat function. There's a lot of reasons why we want you to disable chat, but most important, it kind of levels the playing field for the entire team. It prevents anybody from saying something that might be inappropriate. This way's, we're just communicating using audio. If somebody has a question, they can definitely ask the group, or you may need to ask, or somebody might want to ask for a break so that you can staff or the parent needs time to talk things over with their attorney or advocate. So it's just like if we were sitting in the room, rather than having a sidebar conversation, we might go ahead and pause the meeting so they have time to confer with their colleagues. The other thing is that if we do have to record, if parents decide that they're going to record this session, we can record using Blackboard Collaborate. We'll get into that in a little bit, but what it would do is it would record the chat function, and it would always be part of the student's scholastic record under FERPA. So we ask that you disable the chat. So as you're kind of getting into the meetings, you'll see your participant list. The participants can see everybody that's coming into the room. If you're a moderator, you might have some more buttons, three little buttons with 3 dots, right over here. That's going to allow you to, if it's an FCPS staff member, give them moderator privileges or to turn off somebody's mic. And again, we will show you how to do that a little bit later. So let's talk about the session menu. So the session menu is going to be really important for that moderator because it's going to show them where they're going to start the recording. So clearly they would kind of go up into this area. They would click on the little 3-lined icon, and then this window would open. That's where you would go ahead to press the recording and also stop. You can also get access to dial in via teleconference line here. Remember, this is your particular telephone conference line and pen. Every specific user will have one dedicated for them, which I will show you in a little bit. And of course, if you need to leave the session, you can go here as well and click here. So let's go ahead and pretend we're hosting a C-STARS meeting using Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. So getting started. As the special education teacher, you'll need to contact your SBITS or Blackboard Collaborate scheduler in advance to schedule a specific Blackboard Collaborate session with the date and time. Due to confidentiality issues, teachers cannot use their assigned, and that looks like that got cut off, Blackboard Collaborate open-ended session. We've done some testing, and we believe that parents might inadvertently, once they have the link, or other staff members, if they have the link, they could inadvertently click on it at any time and end up participating or into a meeting that they were not invited to. And while we don't think that it's intentional, it's just a way to preserve the families and the students' privacy. So I, just kind of keep that in mind. The other thing that I'm going to say is once it is scheduled, you will get the email and it'll have the following information here. The first top is always your information as the moderator. And as I said here, please don't give this link out to anybody else, even other members of the FCPS team, because this is kind of the keys to your online classroom or online meeting room. So you would never give your keys away to anybody, okay? You may, during the meeting give them moderator access, but that's different. And then, of course, everybody else who's invited, including the parents and other IEP members, will get the guest link here. Just remember, parents should never be listed as a moderator. You may feel sometimes through technical issues, somebody might ask, can you be a moderator? It's Fairfax County policy that we do not give outside FCPS employee, outside users access as an FCPS employee as a moderator to this platform. So one of the things that's going to happen is your SBIT will set things up, but once you get it, I want you to go into your Collaborate panel, and that's down here in the bottom right-hand side of the screen. It's kind of got that purple little arrow. When you click on it, it'll expand. It'll give you a little gear, and once you click on the gear, it'll allow you to get to the session settings. And in those settings are going to be the things that you will decide that your participants can do. So for us, we want our participants to share their audio. Everything else must be disabled. They should not have access to post chat messages or draw on the whiteboard or any files. So as you see here in number 2, once you get to that screen, our SBITS will set it up that way, but you just want to go and verify and support and just make sure that you have the settings set this way, because we know that they're responsible for a lot of meetings in Blackboard Collaborate. So they can share the audio, no video, posting messages, or drawing on the whiteboard. Other considerations, and I know you've heard this, and this also goes with recordings. Make sure that when you're viewing a Blackboard Collaborate recording or you're participating in Blackboard Collaborate Ultra that you are using Chrome. And yes, during this time, especially for this particular activity, you can use C-STARS in Chrome to demonstrate your meetings. We know that the last couple of years, Chrome has gotten really sophisticated, and in fact, some of our teachers prefer to use C-STARS in Chrome. And right now, during distance learning, we'd like for you to use Chrome, especially when you're working with Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. We have done some testing, and it has found to be stable. The next thing that we would ask is that the Department of Information Technology has asked and approved that we can still have one person who's going to be logged in under VPN. That'll be the moderator and the driver, okay? That's usually the same person in this case. They're the only ones that should be connected to VPN. Everybody else should not. And the reason being is it does take up a lot of bandwidth and resources on the VPN line. So everybody, I think when you get in, you want to remind all FCPS employees to make sure that they've disconnected VPN, and the only person that should be connected is really the moderator / driver of C-Stars. Then when you're in the system, you're in C-Stars, you should never access the student record from the folder screen. Instead, make sure to go in and look for the student using the student icon. That'll allow you to search for the student by name and/or ID number. So we talked a little bit earlier about raising the hand, and again, I think these are just some kind of ground rules that you're going to want to set up. You know, we have been thinking a little bit more, and perhaps just as these meetings come up, you may want to schedule, you know, the day before, or, you know, earlier in the day before your meeting starts, to have like a 15-minute little overview of how to use Blackboard Collaborate Ultra with the parents, showing them how they can raise their hand and they'll have access. Of course, that is not a requirement, but if you feel like it can make your meeting go a little bit more smoothly, that's a suggestion. You can, you know, show them how to raise their hand, and then once you acknowledge them, they can go ahead and enable their mic to talk. And then once it's done, either you can enable their mic, or you can remind them to turn off their mic once they're done. Okay. The other little idea that we had kind of floating around is, you know, letting them know ahead of time that, you know, if you did do kind of a little, you know, staff or an overview with the parent about using Blackboard Collaborate Ultra when C-Stars meetings, is letting them know that they're not going to be able to share their audio and there's not going to be access to the chat. And you would do it in the name of making sure that we were respecting everybody's time and making sure that everybody had the same mode of communication. So that might be a really nice way to do that. This particular slide right here is going to show you if we were on the participant slide and you saw that somebody's mic was still on, and you'd see a little mic icon right here. If you were to go over to the 3 dots in the circle, this particular window would appear, and then it gives you some options, and one of them is to mute their mic. So that's another way you can do it, because sometimes once folks are done talking, they forget to mute the mic, and, you know, rather than calling them out or taking time, you could just go real quickly in there and mute it. They can always unmute again if they want to talk to you. Make sure if it's a parent that we never make them a moderator. And of course, you know, you can always remove somebody from the session if you feel like it's getting to be contentious or it's not professional. Then you can also, at the top of your participant list, if everybody's mic is on and you've asked and you don't get the cooperation, you can click on this little button, and then this menu will come out and it'll mute everybody. Okay, so that might help too. So right before the meeting, there is some things that you can do. You can log in, you know, 15 minutes ahead of time, make sure your mic is good. But you can also prepare for different parts of the meeting. And one of the things that we're going to do right now is we're going to upload a PowerPoint slide, just one slide. And the idea of that is, you know, during a meeting, when you have to validate a document or check for validations on an IEP or 504, you know, in the schools, you would either turn off the projector or freeze the projector screen. Well, you won't have that. And if you just disconnect your sharing of the image from the parent, it feels a little strange. So instead, what I came up with is an idea, and you can kind of do on your own, is go and create one slide that you can post up that's kind of just says that were still there. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So down at the bottom, you see your little purple little icon with the X. Once you press it, it'll bring out the series of these buttons, and you're going to go to the Share Content button. Then that new window will appear, okay? And this is where you can add your PowerPoint slide, or if you wanted to share a PDF document, let's just say you were getting ready to review the diploma options for special education students, or the ESY information, or the 504 procedural safeguards in PDF form, and you wanted to put that on the screen, you would follow the same instructions. So number one, where the little gray or big gray add files box is, you can either, if it's on your desktop, you can drag it straight on here, or you can search for the document like the way you do when you go to add an attachment to an email. Then what happens is once it's found, Blackboard Collaborate then starts to upload it and convert it to a format that is useful for Blackboard Collaborate. Please note, you cannot upload through Google Slides. You can create and collaborate on PDFs, Word documents, and PowerPoints, but things must be saved down as Microsoft PowerPoints or PDFs in order for it to appear on the screen. And then once it's ready, you would press the Share Now button down here. And when that happens, the slides will appear right off to the side. And then all you're going to do is that you're going to go ahead and click on that slide in order for it to come up. And we will demonstrate that in a little bit when we get to that portion of validating an IEP and C-STARS. But I just created this little screen here to let parents know while we are validating the IEP, there's something here that they're looking at. So that was kind of our pre-meeting right before, and now it's kind of during the meeting. This is where you're going to start seeing, as the moderator, all the participants logging in. You usually hear them kind of come in and out. So that's a good indication of, you're getting ready to get started with your meeting. Some people will want to chat with you at this point. Just let them know that you will entertain their questions when you're ready. You can also remind them to mute their mics, or you can mute them for them. So remember, we talked a little bit more about, or a little bit earlier, excuse me, about parent recording. So if the parent indicates that they will record, then we can record through Blackboard Collaborate. I will give you a little bit of information about how to upload that file into historical documents and C-STARS a little bit later. But what you'll do is you'll go to Session Menu, click on the three little lines, and then you'll go straight to Start Recording. What I would do, though, as a courtesy, and we're going to get into this as we get further into the C-STARS portion, is tell them what you're doing as you're doing it. One, it lets them know that you're going to be recording, or the recording has began. But two, remember, if there's network slowness, sometimes we are going a little faster than they can see. And it just kind of breaks up that little strange silence. Now, we know that silence can be good, but I think as you get more comfortable with this platform and the parents get more comfortable with the platform, that silence will be okay. So now we're going to talk about sharing out our C-STARS screen. So we've done a lot of setup to get everybody using the specific access. We've uploaded, and off to the side is our PowerPoint screen that says, we'll be back when we're validating. And now we want to go ahead and get C-STARS up onto the screen so that all the other folks can see your screen. To share out your screen, you're going to go back into that Collaborate panel and go back to Share Content. Then a new window will appear. And this time you want to go to Share Application/Screen and go ahead and click on it. At the bottom, what will happen, excuse me, is then a window will appear and it'll give you some options. And one of there's three options: share out your entire screen, the application window, or Chrome tab. So we want you to stay away from the application window and Chrome tab. Remember, C-Stars works on a bunch of pop-up windows. And if you're not careful, Chrome won't be able to help you manage that. So instead, we have found that it's a lot more reliable if you share out your screen. When you do that, though, once you click on this option, number one, and then you press share, everybody's going to see your screen. And in fact, it might look a little like there's a bunch of mirrors and stuff like that. And we'll get to that in a moment. That means we need to give them something to see besides just your desktop. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that no other computer applications are open, like your email, and then that all other tabs on the Google Chrome web browser are closed. You know, we don't want to, you know, show parents that you may have a grocery order in, or you're chatting on another platform. So make sure everything is closed, especially that email, because sometimes it'll pop up and you never know what it's going to display in the little message. So just kind of think about that as you go ahead and do that. Then, like I said, what will happen is, you know, the system will kind of, for everybody else, it'll show like a bunch of mirrors and it'll look a little funky. What you need to remember is that you need to go into Chrome up at the top right next to your open Blackboard Collaborate session and hit the plus sign. And there's one right here. Once you do that, it opens up a new browser tab, and then you can go ahead and type in the C-Stars address or put a favorite in your Google bar up here to get to C-Stars. And then once you see that, you'll be able to log in. So during the meetings, this might be one of those things that if you were going to do a little 10-minute tech tip with parents before the meeting, sharing a slide like this that shows them, look, C-Stars is going to be, the screen's going to look a little smaller, so if they want to, they can zoom in, and they can zoom in by clicking on this little purple icon, and then this window will fly open and it'll give you the ability to zoom in on the screen. So once you're in your Chrome tab and you're on C-Stars, you're going to notice down here that Blackboard Collaborate is giving you a little message saying, look, we are sharing this screen with everybody else. And right now, it's, you know, we can see it. If you want to stop sharing, you can go ahead and press this blue button. But for us, we want to continue because we're getting ready to demonstrate C-Stars. So here's some tips. If during the Blackboard Collaborate session, the moderator or driver wants to stop sharing the screen, okay, they must log out at the main menu of C-Stars. Some of us, including myself, like to X out or red X at the top of the browser window. And if you do that, for some reason, Chrome and Blackboard Collaborate believe, even though that C-Star screen is gone, it still thinks that you're logged in. And if you then go ahead to log back into C-Stars, you're going to get this message, which says you're logged in on another browser. And unfortunately, when that happens, you will need to close all of your browser windows, including the Blackboard Collaborate session as a moderator, and quickly get back in. You won't kick everybody out, but they will be waiting. So you may want to let them know that you're going to jump out for a minute and then jump back in. So really, it's remembering, if you need to log out of C-Stars, you go ahead and you you go ahead and click the white X in C-Stars, and I'll show you how to do that momentarily, and then log out of the system at the main screen where the announcements are. So let's go ahead then and demo C-Stars. So I'm going to go in just like I showed you a little earlier, and I'm going to share out my application window. And so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to log into C-Stars. All right, so remember we talked about just briefly about logging out. You don't want to come up here to the X and press that. That's going to go ahead and get you stuck. Instead, you want to sign out here through the sign out button. And then I will show you on the other pop-up windows which X you can press. Okay? So we're going to go ahead. I have a test student in here that we're going to look at. Remember, we are not going through the folders view. Instead, we are looking through the student icon. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to enter in my sample student ID. Sometimes before the meeting, just like you went ahead and you uploaded that PowerPoint, you can, if you want, go ahead and get your C-Star screen and everything up and running. Just remember, if you're logged into C-Stars without any activity after about 10 minutes, C-Stars will lock you out. So I just kind of wanted to show you that we just may be quickly getting in and entering the student's ID number to get to their IEP. So of course I'm going to have my IEP drafted ahead of time. We know that during the COVID-19 distance learning time, we have given you permission to draft the entire IEP ahead of time, okay? With the understanding that you'll probably send this home with the parent and letting them know that this is just a draft, and that all of our documents at the top say draft until parent has signed. What we'll be doing is during the meeting, if there are questions or changes, we then, with the parent over the audio, can make those changes. The parent can see them being documented into the screen, and then at the end, we would send them home with a hold copy. So just if you think a little bit about how you use C-Stars, whether it's through an IEP or a 504 or an eligibility or a local screening document, like I said, you're going to want to slow it down in terms of how quickly you're clicking and talking, because parents will need to follow along. It's a different level of detail when you're following along on the screen. And so you may want to guide as you talk. So you can say, we are on the cover page. I'm going to go ahead and maximize my window to give you the most real estate. Remember, you can always zoom in at the top upper left-hand side of your screen by clicking on the magnifying glass. Then I'm going to scroll down to the participants. And this is where, if all of your participants have shown up over Blackboard Collaborate, you're going to put them down as participating. They're not going to sign in. In fact, what we're going to do is on the plot page just indicate that the participants all participated through Blackboard Collaborate. So next, I'm going to move to the transition tab. We are not going tab by tab today, but I kind of want to give you an idea of how you might want to guide parents and other team members through this. Letting them know that at this drop down, you're going to select standard diploma, and you're just confirming that there were no other credit accommodations that were needed. And that sometimes other windows may need to, as I scroll down slowly, that you may need to add or go into some sub windows. And then the nice thing that you might want to do is say, okay, now that we're done with the transition tab, before we move on, does anybody have any questions? And then break and give yourself, a good 10 seconds or so, so that it gives parents time to think, because it'll be really hard for them to remember their questions once they move on. So now I'm going to go ahead and click on the plot tab, present level of performance page. And this will be where, as you could say to the other participants of the IEP meeting, I'm going to go ahead and expand this window so that you can see it. Now, you don't have to list everybody like I did right here. You don't have to. What you can do is say everybody on the cover page participated via Blackboard Collaborate. Okay, and then of course it's just business as usual in terms of documenting present level of performance, parent concerns, and the school-based IEP team's response to the parents' concerns. Okay, then, like I said, you want to make sure everybody has had their input. You take time to see if anybody has questions, and then you would move on to the next tab. So what I want us to do, though, is I want us to pretend that we're pretty much all the way towards the end at consent, and that we've gone through and we've done all of our checks for the prior notice of IEP. And then, of course, remember, we still want to read some of this information to them, including those LRE statements. And if you do have a interpreter, they would get access to the link as well, and they would log in on their computer so that they can read and interpret what we are saying. So that would be another reason to kind of slow it down a little bit. This is where you would say to the parent, all right, I'd like to take a 5-minute break, and what I want to do instead, and what I'm going to do during that time, is to polish up the document, make sure that there are no other issues with it, and then I'm going to go ahead and post the PDF for you to review and sign. And so what you would do then is you would bring up your trusty little take a break screen. And while this is up there, you can mute your mic and then go into C-Stars, and you can validate the IEP, fix the errors, and then go ahead and bring up the PDF. And then, you can just say to the parent, once it's brought up, here is the corrected copy based on all of our changes today. And then you can talk about consent. So what happens is, once you're ready to bring up that PDF, you'll go ahead and you'll go up here to stop sharing, and then you'll grab your PDF and you can go ahead and put it on to share. But I'm not certain you'll need to do that at that point. Really, once you're ready to send home the whole copy to the parent over email, you can just tell them that it's coming over email. In fact, you could even email it to them right after you're done. Let me see here. So that's an option for you, is to go ahead and do it that way. You can then show the PDF on the screen. And even though this isn't a hold copy, you can bring them down to the bottom where it talks about their areas to provide consent. Okay, so we know that we won't be getting a paper copy during this time. Everything will be done by email. So this is where you can give the parent the option. You can review it now, And then if you want to, you can give verbal consent. You can say that to the parent. And then all you would do is if they gave verbal consent, you would then go ahead and release the IEP, mark that the parent agreed, put the date of the meeting in there, whatever date you're meeting, and then make it current. You have to include the parent's verbal agreement on the PWN. The same will go if they want to have more time, then you can follow up in a couple of days and ask for them to send you an email. And the email should be very simple. I agree with this IEP. Clearly, there's going to be times where, just like before when we were in school, parents say, I agree, but I don't agree to this. And then that becomes a partial agreement that you'll work through with your department chair or lead teacher and your PSL. But again, how they agreed will be included in the prior written notice. So let's go back to our PowerPoint. All right, so we've just demoed C-stars. And again, we know that was pretty fast, but I hope some of the tips could help you. You know, in terms of the language interpreter, making sure they would get the link. And just like before, I think scheduling is going to take on just a little bit different importance. It's always been important, but now you're working with the SBIT getting or the Blackboard Collaborate scheduler, getting them time to set it up for you, and then reaching out to the language interpreter to make sure that they have that date and time secured, as well as the parent clearly. So after the meeting, if once you're ready to stop recording, you'll go all the way up to the top, and you'll go into the setting space, and then you'll go to stop recording. At that time, you'll log out of C-stars, you'll stop sharing your screen, and then just make sure that you have emailed copies of all the documents to the parent. So the thing that we can't really help is if parents are having technical issues. Sometimes they're going to have issues with their home network, their home computers, that might prevent them from accessing Blackboard Collaborate successfully. If that is the case, you may want to take them or refer them to the IT service desk, but why we are reserving this platform for our most unique meetings, ones that may require this level of interaction. Your phone, your assigned teleconference line is still a very good opportunity or option. We now can do Google Meets, and you can do Google Meets through as a teleconference. But what we'd like is if the parent does decide to record, you would come back and do it through Blackboard Collaborate. So clearly there are no questions because this is just a recording, but I wanted to thank you for listening and watching. This information, so this recording, along with the little cheat sheet that was sent to the SBITs and a copy of the PowerPoint and notes, will be uploaded to the Due Process and Eligibility intranet site shortly. My name is Andrew Gian. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.